Howdy folks, this is the command line Vulpine here, and welcome back to Let's Play Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, where we're actually just going to kind of sit down and have a chat here. Let's zoom in for a second here, actually, just so we can look a little closer at what's going on here. So, in the last video, and I recorded this quite a long time ago because I haven't had time to play more Cataclysm in a while. In the last video, we had the situation where I was processing water from dirty water into clean water. And we're in the situation where my character got completely dehydrated in 4 hours. He went from hydrated to dehydrated, and hydrated is like a green, like dark green, which means you probably can't even drink anymore without puking. And then we went to dehydrated, which means like I'm dying in 4 hours. So I was very confused about that. And so what's going on? And remember, we were also wet for some reason. We didn't know why. I stepped in a puddle a really long time ago, but it shouldn't have been that bad. Sweating is now in the game. That's what this nonsense about, like, breathability. 50% on the torso for this item, for example. That's what breathability is, apparently. What does 50% breathability mean? And that's kind of the problem. They've gone too far. They've done this before, but we've kind of gotten used to it, right? Like, we have the better, in my opinion, it's better, inventory system where things go into different pockets and they stay inside the pockets, where if we go back to one of the old versions of the game, if you drop your backpack, basically everything in your backpack spills out on the ground because it doesn't stay inside the container. And then you got to put it all back in the container. Where now you can just drop the bag and it's still all in there, which is nice. Then they maybe took it a step too far by making it so, okay, your shovel can't go in your backpack because it's too tall. It's like, well, you know, you could probably like not zip the bag, right? And put the shovel in there. It might add encumbrance. I think you should maybe add extra encumbrance for doing it, but you should be able to put your shovel, or crowbar was usually the main thing I'd think of, because you make the crowbar in the early game. Normally it's not good enough to be a weapon anymore because they nerfed it. So you can't use it in your hand anymore. You need to put it away. Well, you can't put it in a regular backpack. There's like almost no backpacks that can even fit it. Luckily in this playthrough we found the golf bag right away. The golf bag is this gigantic bag that's actually, it basically functions like the old game did, where it's mostly just one big pouch, and it's just like such a big pouch that anything can fit in it, which is nice. And it's rigid too, so its encumbrance doesn't change as you put stuff in it, which makes it a lot more like the old way the things worked. Anyway, suffices to say that they have a tendency to go a little bit too far when they're adding the realism, and I think I know what's going on at this point. I think they are scared of Project Zomboid. Project Zomboid has gotten incredibly popular, where Cataclysm has still kind of flown under everyone's radar, even though there's like references to Cataclysm in Project Zomboid, which is very nice of them to do, I'd think. I think they're getting concerned about Project Zomboid doing better. And so what they're doing is they're turning Cataclysm into this horrific mess of just way too complicated stuff, where it's not fun anymore. Like, I'm honestly not having fun in this playthrough, just to be real with you, because it's dumb. Our character went from hydrated to dehydrated in 4 hours, and yes, he's in leather armor, he's in leather pants and a Kevlar vest and motorcycle armor. Okay, yeah, he's in full leather. And he lit a fire next to him and he's processing water. Well, yeah, it'd be realistic to sweat a lot in that situation. But you know what also would be realistic? Have many of you boiled water on your stove and just like stood in front of the stove? Or do you go into the other room and sit down on the couch and wait for 10 minutes for the water to boil? I think the answer is you go to the other room and sit on the couch and wait for the water to boil, right? You don't stand in front of the furnace. Same thing here. You're not going to just stand in front of this fireplace wearing your full leather, you're gonna go head over to this couch and you're gonna sit down. But there's no system here where it says like, how do you want to craft this item? Do you want to try to do this as fast as possible, so you're micromanaging it, you're sitting there the entire time and it's gonna make you sweat a lot more? Or do you want to take breaks? And that's all they need to do is like make a section for when you're crafting something. I don't know if we'll really be able to do it here. I don't know. Let's say I want to make a batch of cudgels. Let's make like 5 cudgels. And it doesn't ask me anything, right? There's no point for us to do this, by the way. Not that it matters, because we're quitting this playthrough soon. But you see, when I do that, it should ask me, do you want to take breaks and relax while you're doing this, or do you just want to get it done as fast as possible because it's really important? And then you pick one. And you can't say, oh, they can't do it as out of their hands. Yes, they can, because when you craft something like, let's see, we'd have to find something where I have like multiple options. I might not have anything at this moment. Yeah, I don't think I have anything at the moment. Or here we go. Sweet water. I can make it with candy honey, sugar, or forest honey. If we do just like one, it'll ask me what I want to do, right? It asks me which one do I want to make it with. Well, you can do the same thing and just put a prompt for like how do I want to craft, right? So that's sort of the issue, right? Is they should implement things like that before they implement things like sweating. Because our character almost died for no reason. He was sitting right here where he is now, crafting water in this fireplace. He was fully hydrated. He was dehydrated in 4 hours. And he was soaked, which was from the sweat, I guess. It doesn't say anywhere that there's sweat involved. It doesn't tell you there's sweat. There's no change log anymore, or the experimental branch is only on stable branches where you find out. Which, sure, once the stable branch comes out, people are going to know about sweating. But it's up for us people playing the experimental builds to like find out how that stuff works and explain it to other people, especially in people's positions like me, where they're usually doing like tutorial series and stuff for people. And now it's like, if people want to get into Cataclysm Dark Days Ahead, you know what I'm going to tell them? I'm going to say, don't bother with anything point E onward. Play point D. That's probably the peak of the game that you're going to get right now, because the game's just got way too complicated after point E and point F. And it's looking like this one's going to be like a little bit too far. Because the other thing they've added is these proficiencies, where you have to get these proficiencies now before you can craft a bunch of these things at like a normal speed. It takes like way longer to craft things, which might be okay because of the game. The pace of the game is a lot faster now, or a lot slower, I guess would be the way to say it. Because I played Point C not long ago. In Point C, like the days just fly by. Just walking to town can take hours. Just because, like, I don't know. Does it take like 1 second to move right now? It takes like 1 second to move right now. I think in that game it's like a minute goes by each tile you step, right? It's pretty crazy. But you know, there's a balance to be had there. There's this long stretch of time where the game didn't rain anymore. I was like, well, that's kind of boring. Have they taken out acid rain? Which I get why they did it. I think it's because, like, if you're trying to collect water, like, sometimes it's just going to fill with acid and you can't do anything about it. Or you're out in the middle of a field and then suddenly an acid rains and I go, oh, my character is dead now. But you were supposed to take steps to avoid that. I keep hearing rumors that that's going to come back eventually, but I still haven't seen it with my own eyes, so I wouldn't say that's necessarily true. And then, like, the other thing is, like, they're always about, oh, realism. Well, now it seems like the focus of the game is these portals, which we've encountered some on our last playthrough. Well, we've encountered them throughout the game. They've always existed, but now that's seeming like the main focus of the game now. It's starting to move away from like the zombie stuff and it's moving into like I guess they're eldritch horrors, you would call them, where these portals open up and stuff comes out. They're really extremely difficult to deal with, like the eye that looks at you and gives you a fungal infection. And it also like runs away from you, and you also like can't see when you're looking for it. And it's like, I'm not even sure how you're supposed to kill that thing. I guess you wear a blindfold and try to step up to it. But then there's other stuff spawning around you, so you're probably going to get killed. You're going to go crazy, and the hounds of Tyndalus will start spawning. So it's a little weird where it's like they're going really hard on the realism thing, and when I bring it up in the Discord that, hey, this sweating mechanic is ridiculous, my character like died in 4 hours of just trying to make water, and the person's like, oh, drinking, that's normal, sweating to death in 4 hours, and it's normal that you could drink 2 liters of water in one sitting and still be thirsty. What? 2 liters? Do you know how big 2 liters of water is? That's freaking huge. That's a 2-liter jug of soda. Like, I drink that in like 2 or 3 days. And my character drank it in like 30 minutes, and his stomach like wasn't even full. It's like, what? No. And he was still thirsty. And then this hunger system, it doesn't work anymore. It was just a lot better when these were just bars that bars that drained, I guess would be the way to put it. And then you just need to fill them back up by eating and drinking. Now it's this whole thing where it's like, the vitamin intake, sure, that's fine. You just take a multivitamin and you're good. But now it's like, okay, so you have calories. You have to reach the certain amount of calories, but also you can see my character's overweight. Even though we're in a survival situation, he probably shouldn't be overweight, even though he's eating really good food, like eventually. Anyway, like the problem here is like, now you have a stomach size, so there's only so much your character can eat before he's full. And then, well, he might still be hungry, he might still be thirsty, even though he's filled, which doesn't make any sense, which is why I always say, oh, we're fake hungry, because I'll eat like, I don't know, I'll eat like a unit of red sauce, which is like 0.07 liters, and then your guy's not hungry anymore. It's like, well, he was just fake hungry. That just happens now because it's like your character just wants something in their stomach. It's like, I get it's somewhat realistic. Sometimes you're just hungry when you don't need to eat, but it's a video game. You should really just be hungry when you're hungry. You shouldn't have to deal with all this nonsense. And like, my guy was dehydrated, and I drink water, and it's going to take time for him to actually not be dehydrated anymore. It's just kind of a huge pain in the ass. There's nice things that they've done, like being able to reach a lot further around our character to get things done. Like in particular, we noticed that last time we washed clothes, we were able to wash some clothing that was like really far away. And I was like, huh, that's strange, but cool. We can reach a lot further than it used to be. We don't have to necessarily have everything immediately adjacent to us, but then there's sometimes where it still is, and it's not very clear when. And that's true, and when it's not. So anyway, where am I going with this? Where I'm going with this is that I'm done. It's not fun anymore. And like the other thing that was bothering me is like, well, you got to take your armor off in order to craft. Well, that's one more thing where I'm going to have to take the clothes off, put different stuff on, craft, go put my stuff back on. Like, we already do that with our backpack, having to take it off for the encumbrance and stuff. And then, like, emptying out my pockets so that I can sort things a little bit more smartly. I already have to do so much of this micromanagement of my character. And now you want me to also have to change my gear every time? They say, oh, we're going to do something to fix that later, they said in the Discord. It's like, well, maybe you should do something to fix that first and then put in the sweating system, right? Why make it like really bad and then say, oh, we'll fix it later, when you could have just made it so people have some new stuff to do? Like, hey, now you can like set different sets of clothes. That's kind of cool, right? And then you can just like select which outfit you want. Your character will just switch in and out of them when he's doing different tasks or something. That'd be pretty cool in a vacuum. But no, we're just going to make the character sweat, and you're just going to have to micromanage what he's wearing. Not fun. So yeah, if I'm going to play Cataclysm again, it's either going to be Bright Nights, which Bright Nights is also strange with like what they choose to, because Bright Nights is supposed to be like the version of it where people are kind of pushing back on the realism stuff. But last time I played it, it was like there's like some stuff that they took out, but they still like kept a lot of it. Like I think the bleeding system was still in, the new inventory system's still in. I think you still get fake hungry and stuff too. Like I don't even remember what was actually different in Bright Nights. I think things freezing got fixed in Bright Nights, but things are also fixed with freezing in this. Although when I did a test run right before we started this playthrough, everything was frozen. And I hadn't put on the no freeze mod for this run either. I forgot to do it, but stuff wasn't frozen this time. And that's got to get fixed too, because it's the stupidest thing that you'll go into a house and the salt in the cupboard is frozen. It's like, well, it's not that cold. It's like the middle of spring in the Northeast. Like, yeah, the Northeast gets a little colder. It's still a temperate climate. It's still the middle of spring. Shouldn't be salt, which doesn't freeze, by the way. Salt in your cupboard is frozen inside of a building? That doesn't make any sense. So maybe you shouldn't put a freezing system in the game unless you put in a system for like, these are things that can freeze and these are things that can't freeze. But instead it's like anything that remotely fits under the food category just automatically freezes, even though salt is an anti-freeze. We put it on our streets to keep the streets from freezing. Anyway, that's it. I think what I'm going to do next, before I move on to like Bright Nights, I think I'm actually just going to play some RimWorld for a while, because a lot of people have been asking me to play RimWorld, so I think we'll do that. But the next Cataclysm content, I think I'm going to go back in time, which I've already done for Point C, but instead of making a playthrough, I think I'm just going to make an edited video of like what were the differences between Point C, Point D, Point E, Point F, like what changed between each version. When did it start going downhill? It's after Point D, by the way. I think Point D is probably the peak. We'll have to see, because I haven't played Point D in a while. I played Point C recently. But yeah. And we'll talk about the differences between them and what stuff is good. What are the good changes? Like I said, the backpack, the pockets actually storing their things is very nice. In the most recent version, something about how they were storing them is a little bit better than it was before. I can't really remember exactly what. I think just this little marker here to indicate that this is a container is new. And just that is like a big help in recognizing, because it used to be like when they first implemented the system, you'd have this category of stuff that's like all the contents of the containers, and it's like, well, I don't want to empty the containers, I just want to drop the containers, but you couldn't really pick them that easily. But now it's a little bit easier to do that. Anyway, that's all I wanted to do for this video, is just explain what's going on. We're done onion rings with this playthrough, but I hope you all enjoyed. See if anyone agrees with me or not. I've been playing this since Point A, which was kind of the other thing that bothered me, is when I brought up these problems. I've been playing on YouTube since before Point A, actually. I looked back and checked, and I was like, wow, I actually played it before it was in Point A. And they were like, for your information. Don't hit me with for your information. I've been playing longer than you have, probably. So, yeah. That's all. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, remember, hit the like button. Keep the conversation going in the comments, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. Until next time, I hope you have a good day.